How can we fight inflammation for cardiovascular health? That's the topic we're diving into today, and I have an expert guest on the show. His name is Dr. Robert Scott Bell. He is a homeopathic practitioner. He's also a media show host of the Robert Scott Bell Show. He's also an author, and he's going to address for us the insights from a physician on how we can deal with the problem of inflammation, which basically affects everything. So welcome to the show, Robert. I am glad that you're here to offer your insights.
Well, thank you, Tina. It's good to be here. It's one of my favorite topics.
I want to dive into some practical things that people can do to improve their cardiovascular health and fight inflammation in a way that doesn't squash it.
Yes, that's a beautiful thing. The thing about the nitric oxide story, which came about primarily in the 90s, the people that discovered this got the Nobel Prize. And eventually, if you've ever talked to John Hewlett, who developed Cardio Miracle, a very critical need that he had just to live, much less than to thrive later. This comprehensive, complex formulation of food, right? It is a food. It's not a synthetic. Facilitates what we call an endogenous or inside production of nitric oxide, because we are designed through healthy blood flow when we're hydrated, when we're mineralized. That blood flow itself along the monocellular lining, the endothelial lining of the vascular system, facilitates your body's own cellular production of this nitric oxide, which causes vasodilation, relaxes the vascular system, which means an ease of blood flow, so that if you have blood pressure issues, those are reduced significantly. That healthy, supple, yet strong aspect of our vascular system, because it's overworked if we don't understand how we're depleting our minerals and we don't replenish them. Then there's all kinds of compensations occurring. The blood flow is reduced if we're not hydrating properly. The minerals aren't there. We can corrupt our connective tissue, which includes the endothelial lining, the vascular system. This requires things like magnesium and copper and silica and selenium, and all of these things you find to some degree in this food product or supplemental product called Cardio Miracle. And the precursors to facilitate more efficient production of nitric oxide, which depletes, our production capacity over time. We call it because of aging. I say because we become deficient and toxic the longer we're on the planet if we don't know how to counteract that. So we do see a reduction in the natural production of nitric oxide, which leads to a whole lot of problems, including, again, blood flow, oxygenation, energy production, etc. So some of the precursors to the nitric oxide production, including L-citrulline, L-arginine, people know about beets as a means of a food supply and other things that can help. But those things alone can boost temporarily nitric oxide in the body. But when you have that nitric oxide spike, it's very short-lived. It drops immediately off. But there's another thing that occurs, that when you have the upregulation of nitric oxide, you also have the upregulation of a dangerous free radical called peroxynitrite. It's called NO, O-N-O-O. And you rise that peroxynitrite. It's like, no, yeah, that's good. But oh no, here comes this peroxynitrite, which is a very violent, intense free radical that can create inflammation. So you're getting this good thing and also this bad thing. But what John Hewlett didn't even realize he did by creating this beautiful formula, this symphony of ingredients in the Cardio Miracle, was that he was able to provide so many antioxidants in there that it counteracted the rise. You had the nitric oxide rise, and you counteracted the rise of peroxynitrite. It was neutralized. So you had this beautiful rise, and it wasn't a spike now. It was a prolonged elevation of nitric oxide over the course of 24 hours or longer. No one had ever done that. The scientist, Tadeusz Malinsky, who had studied this at Ohio University, it's like, how did you do this? We've been trying to figure this out forever. And I think it was downloaded from God. That's my perspective here. That's why it really is a miracle, Cardio Miracle. So getting on it, you see that sustained production. You counteract that detrimental rise of peroxynitrite. So you have the benefit without the detriment. And that, again, is something that, these many nitric oxide supplements on the market don't do. So you can have a temporary benefit, but also you got to be concerned about long-term use of something like that. Now, there are other side benefits instead of side effects of this, because it's a broad spectrum nutrient, food product. We found through the studies that a lot of people are taking external vitamin D supplementation, right? Maybe they're afraid of the sun or whatever the doctors have said, but they are taking a lot of vitamin D. But very often I'll hear these people call up on my show or call me, say, hey, my doctor put me on more vitamin D and and it never goes up. The levels don't go up. What's going on? And I thought, well, there's got to be when you talk about metabolic deficiency or imbalance or dysfunction, why is it if you put the D in and it's not working, it could be the wrong form of D. That's possible of a D2 synthetic. But even if it's D3, it may not be utilizable for some people because of the deficiencies, various mineral deficiencies, that they can't access it. And what we see is a storage of the fat soluble factorial hormone D is called, and it ends up in the fat cells just there, and you can't get it because metabolically you don't have the capacity to do what you're designed by God to do. By bringing in the Cardio Miracle, which is again a symphony of food and supplemental, minerals and things that come in, you now have the ability to access that stored D and activate it, convert it to the active form. And suddenly now, my gosh, you're taking far less D, but you're getting far more benefit. So there's a lot of things people are taking and not getting benefit. Now they might not even need to take, and they'll have the benefit of the little D that's in there that you didn't need much more than that. This is great. And not only that, one of the other most exciting things that was found by taking Cardio Miracle on a daily basis was the enhanced, what we call cellular autophagy. If you've heard that word, people say autophagy. I like autophagy. And it's a process of cellular recycling and detoxification. So there are waste products. Remember, we talk about even like uric acid, but just this concept of cellular metabolism resulting in waste products. Some of the waste products can be recycled. That's part of autophagy. Some needs to be cleansed out. So the ingredients, the comprehensive ingredients in the Cardio Miracle are facilitating enhanced cellular autophagy. Now, what's another way to enhance that process? Fasting. Intermittent fasting and fasting. So people know how important that is to extend lifespan, lengthen telomeres, things like that. And that this product is doing that too, that it enhances. So even when I fast every Friday, I still do the Cardio Miracle in the morning because it enhances the fast. It makes that even more efficient. So it's like the kung fu of your own metabolic pathways are enhanced by the use of this product. And it's not just about nitric oxide, even though that's the primary focus. And then you're facilitating the production of it like you were much younger. And now, I go to this kickboxing gym and I'm, whipping up on these young people. And now the secret's out. I've told them about Cardio Miracle. It's getting harder for me to keep up, although I won the challenge of the week again last week. So that's cool. But it's so funny. I joke about it. I'm like, dude, you get annoyed with me, the old guy winning? Get on some Cardio Miracle. So I'm not that obsessed about winning. It's okay. But it's fun to see other people tap into this and hit another level. My mom, who's now 90 years of age, she still dances. She's doing Cardio Miracle every day. And now, my sister, my son, his roommate used to have migraines like my producer, Super Don. Serious migraines, got on the Cardio Miracle, and they went away. I'm not saying it's the treatment for migraines, but a lot of migraines are related to cardiovascular health. You enhance blood flow, the migraines no longer are something that you're experiencing. So there's a lot of side benefits here.
So what are some other things practically that people need to start doing in addition to taking the right supplements, a whole food supplement, not just a pill? And what can we do practically to change our lifestyles, to change our nutrition, and to detoxify from the things that are causing inflammation to go awry?
Well, hydrating is a basic one. Many years ago, I interviewed Dr. Batman Gelage, a physician from Iran who was a political prisoner. What a story he had. And he was healing prisoners in prison, right? He was the doctor, they knew it, with water, clean water, and sometimes a little bit of salt he would put in because the minerals, electrolytes. So the simple act of hydration. We now have technologies that produce hydrogen, dissolve hydrogen in water, which is also another functional antioxidant and cell signaling modulator. So it's very comprehensive and complementary to nitric oxide. So the Echo technologies, the Echo Water, Echo Go, those things are really simple that you can add into normally you realize, I do have to drink water. Let's clean it up, make sure it's pure, and then we can actually dissolve hydrogen into it. So that's another thing we can do. Keying in on certain minerals that are really critically important to consider. Selenium is a gross deficiency across the board. Chromium is a gross deficiency across the board. Yet many of these supplemental companies, they mean well, but they're using synthetic combinations, amino acid chelates that are not as efficient for utilization by the body. So try to defer to whole food supplementation, which is what I talk about all of the time on my show. Other things to facilitate detoxification, more antioxidant introduction. My friend Bob Warren, who's originally from Georgia, Tbilisi, when it was the Soviet Union, he escaped, went to Israel, then came to America. He brought the formulation known as Folium when there was the 1986 Chernobyl nuclear disaster in the Soviet Union and Ukraine. And they had to figure out a way to save people's lives from ionizing radiation, heavy metals, environmental destruction. And they formulated a botanical that was used to bind and excrete, right? So these are things, that's Folium PX. These are things I talk about. I try to bring people awareness to the many things that can help facilitate the detoxification that we all need. Even if we eat clean, pure organic food like I've done since 1990, I still do things for my liver every day. Exercise is important because moving the lymphatic fluid, it doesn't have a pump. So Juvent Technologies has a micro impact plate. A lot of these vibrating plates are too violent and they can create tissue injury. Talk about inflammation again. But at a very subtle thing, you can actually move the lymph if people can't exercise. So there are a lot of things that I talk about are available. I write about and have links up on my website at robertscottbell.com.
So that's fantastic news to know that there are some things that we can start putting into place that will help us detoxify and put in the good things that we need to be as healthy as we possibly can. Even though you can't eliminate every toxin from your environment, you can get a good start on it. What are your favorite 3 or 4 personal habits that you would never live without?
Well, I think we've hit some of them. I mean, the idea of cleaner food, right? Talking about switching over to organic or equivalent quality, whether it's certified or not, growing your own food is very important. Cleaning things up that go into your body is, it's number one. Do you love yourself enough? I mean, talk about that when we make excuses for not doing it. Now, I realize if you don't value or perceive the value in eating cleaner food, why would you do it, right? It's expensive or it's inconvenient, on and on. But when you recognize the cause and effect relationship between toxins coming in on an ongoing basis, kind of bring back the supersize me concept. You're not reacting to them. So you think, well, I'm just eating the same way all the time. So what's the big deal? But that is the big deal because over time you have, the manifestation of diseases that you don't want to have to deal with. So when you say organic food is expensive, I'm with Joel Salatin, the farmer. And he says, if you think organic is expensive, have you priced cancer lately? Right? You start beginning to value something a little different. Obviously, exercise, movement is life. Even if you're not an intense athlete, just doing a little walk, a rebounder, or something that keeps things moving, even if it's a low impact in a pool, doing the water aerobics, whatever, depending on your ability to move. I mean, my gosh, we've just become so sedentary as a species. We used to, in order to survive, the kind of work we did was always physical. It was only in the last century that we began to transition to be able to do this all of the time, or now this all of the time. And that's the extent of our activity. So that's devastating over time. And then, finding, I guess, things that bring you great joy, identifying your passion, your mission in life and living it. That alone brings the spirit in, which keeps you young. Right. That's the thing is sometimes it's not tangible and visible in a physical way, but the spirit that moves us. So practice the presence of God in your life, prayerful, meditative, contemplative. And I know everybody's got different beliefs about that, but find a way that it just lights you up. And that's, a practice that will sustain you sometimes beyond the explanation, for people that aren't doing as well on other things. And I'm not saying rely upon that and then eat garbage all of the time. Well, I pray every day. It's like praying away the toxins, fine. But if you're relying on that, I think that's not living up to our responsibility to clean up our act, to love ourselves enough to give the pure things into our bodies. We try to understand that spiritually, but sometimes we miss that. That also means this temple, this gift, to care for it, to love it enough to give it the best and not think that it's like, oh, I'm not worthy, right? You're spitting in God's face to say you're not worthy. God created you. God loves you. How could you say you're not worthy if you're loved by that which created you? So that's a big part of the learning process, I think, that, makes it easier for you to go, oh, well, the stuff I thought was just, not important or not necessary, or I wasn't. You now see those choices you make reflect on how you feel about creation, the creator, and yourself.
So, how can people get a copy of your book? Because I know that you have a tremendous wealth of information to offer, and watch your show so that they can continue to follow you and get more information about their health.
Yeah, Unlock the Power to Heal is the name of the book. You can get it on Amazon. Also, I've made some one key chapter very very much free for everybody, and that's downloadable on my website at robertscottbell.com. It's the GI recovery. Healing the gut is everything. And I've helped to develop techniques to do that. That, took me 2 years to do when I first learned how to do it. Now I can do it in 2 months or less for people in need. So that's great. If you become a Patreon supporter of the Robert Scott Bell Show, it's really just a little bit helps us to keep the lights on and keep the message going out. There's a Patreon page at RS Bell Media, or you'll find a link under the More tab. And then I also have another chapter on lung health that I made available for patrons for free. That's a big one. We did through COVID and other things. Lung health is overlooked, and we don't have to resort to steroidal and non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs or other inhalers. There are other things we can do. I wanted to reveal that for everybody. So most of that stuff is coming through, and I've got more to write about, but I'm just so busy. Sometimes it's hard to get back to it, but there'll be more books in the future.
And if any of you listening are interested in learning more about Cardio Miracle, if you check the notes, there will be links for that, and you can access a discount as well. Thank you so much for being a guest on Flourish-Meant today, Mr. Bell, and may all of you listening be inspired to, as he said, value who you were created to be and take care of the temple that's going to allow you to be able to live your best and flourish for the benefit of other people around you. I hope that you were inspired by this episode. And of course, I also hope that you come back for the next episode of Flourish-Meant.